Hey everyone, welcome back to Bakekat Kitchen. Today we're going to be talking about something that's really important but often gets overlooked when life gets hectic. Managing your time so you can prioritise self-care. I know how easy it is to get caught up in the hustle. Between work, family and just the chaos of everyday life, taking time for yourself can feel like just one more thing on your to-do list. But the truth is, if we don't make time for self-care, we're eventually going to burn out, and trust me, I've been there. Today, I want to share how I'm making a one-dough sourdough sandwich loaf. Now, I love traditional sourdough, but let's be honest, it takes time. The good news is, you can still get that amazing homemade flavour in less time with this quicker recipe. It's perfect for busy days when you still want something nourishing, but without the hours of waiting. Sometimes finding these little shortcuts in our routines, like a faster bread recipe, means we can carve out time for other things, whether it's reading or resting or whatever helps you recharge. So let's get started on this loaf and chat about some tips on balancing life and self-care. Okay, we've got all our ingredients prepared for our one-day sourdough sandwich loaf. This doesn't need to be proved overnight, so it's a really great bread to make if you need it in a bit more of a hurry than a normal sourdough loaf. First of all, we're going to have 125 grams of this fed sourdough starter. My starter I fed last night before bed. As you can see, she's very active and ready to go. 12 grams of salt. I'm using that smoked Maldon sea salt that I like so much. It gives such a lovely, subtle, smoky flavour to anything you use it in. It's my current favourite. I'm using it on everything. 12 grams of a nice fruity olive oil. I'm using a Spanish one, and 12 grams of honey. I'm just using raw honey from a friend's hive. That honey will obviously help it to prove more quickly since we're only doing this in one day. 500 grams of white, unbleached, organic baker's flour I like to use. I'll put the link in the description below. 325 grams of water, just lukewarm. Like I've said before, I like to get it to about 32 to 34 degrees Celsius in the microwave. That helps my bread to prove at a consistent rate. And today I'm going to be using this excellent Pullman bread tin. I just got it on Amazon. It's a great size. It's a perfect size for this loaf, for the 500 grams of flour. It's got holes in the bottom of it you may or may not be able to see. That apparently, allegedly, helps the hot air in the oven to circulate better around whatever's in the pan. I just put a bit of baking paper over that because, I don't know if the dough would go through the holes or not, but I'm not prepared to take that risk. And the lid means you get this fantastic square loaf, great square slices, perfect for sandwiches. And this is a lovely, soft, tight crumb, delicious sandwich loaf that's just great for toast or sandwiches or anything really that you need bread for. So let's get going. So let's take our ingredients and get started on this fantastic one-day sourdough sandwich loaf. I've got 325 grams of water, as I said, and I've warmed that up in the microwave to about 33.5 degrees, which is great. It's exactly what I want. We're going to add 125 grams of my fed starter. Just zero that out. Oh, it's beautiful and active. I love it. It's been a bit chilly here in the last few days, so I'm really happy with how this developed overnight. Beautiful. And we want to just mix that into the lukewarm water so it's completely incorporated. You got to make sure your water's not too warm for this, because you do not want to undo all your good work with your sourdough starter by killing it with water that's too hot. Once we've got that incorporated, I'm going to mix in the olive oil and the honey. We've got some super cranky cats around here today. Very upset. One of our cats is a little unwell, and here he is. Let me just get him off the counter. Buddy, you can't be here while I'm cooking. It's not cool. He'll see himself out apparently. We're just going to mix that in. And here comes another one. Can you keep going? Keep going. Keep going. Don't fight. You're going to have to give me a second here. Hey, come on. I've managed to keep them out of all the other videos until now, but today they're being a little uncooperative. So, olive oil and honey mixed into my starter and water mixture. And now we're going to incorporate the flour. Just going to pop a glove on for this because I don't like to get it all over my hands. And chances are once this dough starts to incorporate, it's going to go everywhere. So, well, not everywhere, but all over my hands. Too much trouble today. Come on now. That's enough. You can just use a silicone spatula for this. I mean, I would often use my bread whisk that I use for my sourdough, but it's not 100% necessary for you to have one. They're pretty easy to get now at any kitchen supply store, kitchen warehouse, places like that. But I do love using a silicone spatula because it's so easy to make sure you're incorporating anything that's up the sides. This is also going to break down any lumps in the flour as you're doing it. Even if there are some still remaining though, you're going to go through a series of stretch and folds with this, just like with a normal sourdough loaf. So any little lumps that there might be in there, dry lumps, you're going to be able to break those down and incorporate them into the dough as you go with your stretch and folds. Now we're going to get this into like a shaggy dough state. The recipe says to put the flour in once this flour is incorporated into the liquids. However, I like to let this sit for an hour, and in that first set of stretch and folds that I do, that's when I'm going to put the salt into it. I don't know if it makes that much of a difference, but I like to give the yeasts in the starter the best possible chance they can to develop really strongly. And salt can sometimes inhibit that, from what I've read. And I don't like to take the chance, so. So what I'll do is I will just give this a knead for about 3 minutes, just in the bowl. I'm not taking it out of the bowl to do it, to get that flour incorporated. After which, I'm going to pop a tea towel on the top of it. And it is still a little chilly here today, despite the fact that it's springtime in New South Wales. And I'm going to pop it into the microwave on the proofing function for an hour, and then we'll come back to it. So my 1-day sourdough sandwich loaf has been proofing for about an hour. I'm going to add the salt in now and do a set of stretch and folds. And after that, I'm going to do 3 more sets of stretch and folds, 30 minutes apart. As you can see, it started to rise a little bit already in this first proofing stage. And I've got a little bit of water here as well. I'm just going to dip my hand in that as well to help incorporate this salt in to the dough. Now, obviously, that salt's not going to incorporate just with this set of stretch and folds. But throughout the next 3 sets that I do over the next couple of hours, the salt's going to disperse throughout the dough. The water on my glove is just to help the dough not stick to my hand. So there we go. That's done. And like I said, 3 more sets and then we'll be back. So it's been a couple of hours, and as you can see, our 1-day sourdough sandwich loaf dough has almost doubled in size, which is exactly what we wanted. It only took a couple of hours, but I did have it on the proofing function in the microwave. So what we're going to do now, before it goes into the Pullman loaf pan to rise again, so it'll rise to the top of the pan. That should probably take a couple more hours. We are going to pop this out, give it its last stretch really. We're going to roll it out with the rolling pin, shape it and get it into the tin. Oh, we want to lightly flour this board first. This is a really lovely looking dough. Lots of bubbles in it that I can see. This is why I like using these Pyrex bowls as well, as you can really get a great idea of how that proofing process is progressing. Look at that, amazing. So we're going to stretch this out into a vaguely rectangular shape. Vaguely. Look at how beautifully that's stretching and not tearing. It's just a lovely dough and it smells magnificent. We want to roll this out just to get, maybe you can see here, there's lots of little bubbles popping up in it. We want to kind of flatten those bubbles out. Don't worry, it's still going to have lots of pop. But you'll see as I'm rolling it how those bubbles are pushing out. Try and keep it in that, again, vaguely rectangular shape. Still a little sticky, so you might need to add a little more flour to your rolling pin. The reason you want to roll these big bubbles out as much as possible is you don't want massive holes in the loaf. It's still going to have a lovely crumb, a lovely texture, but don't allow there to be lots of big bubbles in it unless you want giant holes in it. It's kind of nice with a sourdough loaf, a regular sourdough loaf, but when you're doing a sandwich loaf, you want it to be a nice, even, uniform crumb. So then what we're going to do is fold it over, almost a laminating process, like so, and then roll it nice and tightly. Look at that. That looks fantastic. Now, I'm really happy with that size. That's going to fit into my loaf pan really well, and it's going to give it space to expand it on the top. So As I mentioned before, there are holes in the bottom of this pan, so I like to just cut a small piece of baking paper and pop it in there, but not until after I've sprayed it just with some olive oil spray. You can use butter as well if you want, but this is just to help that loaf slip easily out of the pan when it's done. Pop my piece of baking paper in there, and this is going to go into the pan seam side down. It's a great fit. I'm also going to put on top of this, this is just a mixture of black sesame seeds, white sesame seeds, and golden linseeds. And this will just be a lovely addition to the top of the loaf. Then, again, just to stop it sticking, I'm just going to pop that loaf lid on top of the pan. We're going to leave it for another couple of hours till it doubles in size, and then it'll be time to pop it in the oven. All right, it's been about another hour and a half, and our bread has beautifully risen. You can see we're nearly to the top of the pan there, which is fantastic. I'm just going to spray a little more olive oil, just a touch on top, and put a few more seeds. Oh, yeah, this looks great. I've preheated the oven to 190 degrees Celsius. We're going to pop it in there for about 35 minutes. Lid back on. So you can see we are ready to go in there and into the oven. Okay, it's been about 40 minutes. I'm about to take this out of the oven. About 10 minutes ago, I took the lid off it so it could brown a little bit more on the top, but we'll see how it's turned out. Oh, wow. Check that out. It looks pretty great. We're going to leave it in the pan for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we're going to turn it out onto the rack to let it cool. We won't be able to slice it until it does cool down, unfortunately, but I think it's going to be really great. Okay, let's see how our one-day sourdough sandwich loaf has turned out. I've let it cool now for about an hour, so it should slice really nicely. Boy, that looks great. Wow. Oh, it's beautiful, tight crumb, but really soft. And it smells incredible. And there we have it, our one-day sourdough sandwich loaf. It smells absolutely amazing. I love that we can still enjoy homemade bread even when time is short. Sometimes it's these small changes that make the biggest difference. Taking a little pressure off ourselves by finding ways to save time where we can. It opens up space for what truly matters. Whether that's a few moments to breathe, enjoying a meal with loved ones, or simply sitting down with a cup of tea and unwinding. I hope this video reminds you that it's okay to take shortcuts when you need them. You're doing enough and you deserve time to care for yourself. So whether it's baking bread, going for a walk, or just allowing yourself to rest, whatever self-care looks like for you, make sure to fit it into your routine, even on the busiest days. Thanks so much for joining me in the kitchen today. Don't forget to take care of yourself and the people around you. And I'll see you next time in Bakekat Kitchen.